Being a god can be tricky. So this is a game that I played on stream for a bit. I have, at time of recording, gotten to the end once. I would like to try and find the time to do it again. Don't know when that'll happen, so I'm going to talk about it now. Stray Gods. So this is ultimately one of those choices matter type adventure games. Because when you say something is an adventure game, there's a bunch of subsets of that. There's, of course, the point and click adventure, which is going to be a lot of inventory management and possibly moon logic puzzles. But then there's the choices matter adventure game. So this is kind of what Telltale did before they went under. They're back, though. I don't even know what's going on with them. But the idea is that what drives the gameplay is the character that you control is presented with different choices in a situation, and in this case also a timer. Although the timer feels a bit more diegetic when it comes up, because the timer doesn't always come up, and I actually like the way that they deploy that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. To make a decision, to say a certain thing or ask a certain question, and then see how the story diverges from there. So that's mechanically how it's set up. And those kinds of things basically live or die on their writing. Writing compelling characters, an interesting scenario, and accounting for enough variant choices so that even if the overall structure of the story remains the same, the pieces and the get moved around enough, or the way you get to the fixed plot points are varied enough that you can still have a different experience each time. And while, as I said, I've only played through it once, I can't fully vouch for how divergent it can get. There were enough people in the chat while I was playing who had played it, who mentioned things like, oh yeah, there's this entire storyline that you could have gotten, or some people even saying, oh, I haven't seen this it go this way before. So there seems to be a decent amount of variation, even though the overall structure of the story is fixed. And so here's the bullet points of the story. You play Grace, who is a member of a band. And it starts out, you've been like holding auditions for a new member of the band. It hasn't gone great. Everybody else leaves, and then this woman shows up. And the two of you sing together, and there seems to be an odd kind of connection there. And then you go back to your apartment, and then she shows up at your door and dies. And what you find out is that she was Calliope, the last of the muses from Greek myths. You then pretty much immediately encounter Hermes, who takes you to see what is referred to as the Chorus, which is this governing body of the remaining Greek gods that are still on Earth. So you are immediately confronted with Athena, Aphrodite, Persephone, Apollo. I think that's who you are initially dealing with, and you meet more as you go along. And so in this, like, the gods are immortal, but the mechanism is different. Like, it's unclear if they can die of old age, but they can and will die by various, I mean, obviously Calliope did, but when Calliope died, a part of her, what is referred to as her eidolon, which is kind of like her soul, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, as we find out later, enters into you, making you the new muse. Now, that doesn't mean you instantly get her memories. You are you will get those gradually over time. You will basically the personality of Grace will be integrated into everything that Calliope was and has been as time goes on. And so these are the idols. They get referred to as idols rather than gods, because these are basically just the current manifestation. And there's a lot of lore. So if you want to dig into the lore, there's plenty there, because there's a whole bunch of gods who aren't present, some of whom you find out why, some of whom you don't. But you do get a general sense that there are definitely fewer than there were. And you have been accused of killing Calliope for the purpose of becoming the new muse, the new idol for her. And you have 7 days to try and unravel what happened and prove that no, I didn't. Like, you didn't, but you got to prove it to these people, who most of whom don't seem to like you on principle. And so that's just how it goes. You go to various places, talk to various characters, and at the start, you sort of pick a primary trait. You're given the options of charm, strength, and wit. So it's basically like you're either really good at talking your way out of situations, really good at being aggressive enough to get through situations, or being clever enough to spot sort of things that maybe other people aren't noticing. Now you pick one at the beginning, and what it does is interesting, because in various interactions there'll be a number of choices that you can make, in terms of what to respond to somebody with. And one of those choices might be, for instance, the aggressive choice. Now, that doesn't mean that the wit and the charm are up there, but like, here's some standard responses thing, or you can basically really get in their face, but only if you picked aggression. It would have applied in this situation if you were an aggressive character, if you'd selected that, but if you didn't, it's just grayed out. But you still see that it was there, so you can see the points at which picking a different starting trait would have given you different options and presumably resulted in a bit of a different story. I went with charm, for the record. But then there's the other major thing, which is the other major selling point of this, which is that it is a musical. Because being now the new muse, you basically have a power that activates in these situations that brings you and whoever else you are pulling into this into a musical number. Now, this is where the timer comes in, because your standard choices for like just what to say next or what questions to ask or whatever, there's no timer on those. There is when you're singing, though. And it makes total sense as to why, because if you just waited indefinitely, what is the music just going to vamp infinitely? No, you have this amount of time before it's your turn to sing, pick something. And so it puts higher pressure on those specific choices and those specific interactions in a way that I think works pretty well. And as I said, a game like this that is about characters and about choices and about the story that unfolds, it's going to live or die on the writing and the performances, both of which are really good. Like, this is a stellar voice cast, really, really bringing a lot to the parts, and they're also really well written. Like, these characters are really well characterized on the page and in the performance. There's too many to go through all of them, but like some highlights for me, I really loved Pan. He was he was great. He was that perfect blend of like, I know that under no circumstances should I ever trust you, but dang, I kind of just want to be around you though. There's a Astarion, not Astarion, that's Baldur's Gate 3, but Astarion, the Minotaur, who he's just the cutest damn thing. Oh, he's so adorable. I actually really liked Hecate a lot too. She's got this really interesting thing where like she knows what's going to happen, but only if the books that she is in charge of keeping hold of, these books of prophecy, only if they say she knows what's going to happen. So like they'll say that, someone's going to break in, and she won't know until after it's happened because the prophecy says she doesn't know, even though she can still read it and it says she doesn't know. It's harder to explain than it is just to watch. It's really neat. And there's some really interesting twists and turns on characters like Eros, Aphrodite. What goes on with her is interesting. And most of the characterizations felt pretty accurate, except for when they were like complete subversions, like Astarion was. But most of the rest felt pretty accurate to what is generally accepted as their Greek mythological. Apollo's such a mopey bastard, which is great. And then there's Persephone. I like Persephone a lot. You do have options for who to romantically pursue. I may have pursued Persephone and am quite happy with that decision. Whew. Anyways, the pace and flow of this thing is really well mapped out, and like I said, I do want to try and play it again on my own time at some point. I don't know when I will. I don't know when I'll have the time to do that, but I definitely want to. I suppose the one thing I'll mention, just by way of criticism, is the songs aren't exceptional. Like, they're not bad. None of the songs are bad, but I think it's just a fundamental issue with the fact that the songs have to accommodate a lot of different options. Like, the songs themselves can play out different ways depending on what you choose at any given moment. And it's not like, and the songs are ones where your three options are always the aggressive, the wit, or the charm, but you aren't locked into picking just one all the way through. You can mix and match and go back and forth, which means that at every single point in the song that you get to make a choice, there has to be three versions, and they all have to musically fit, and they do. But sort of the necessity of needing something that can mix and match, and like any one of three things can go here, which then leads to a thing which any one of another three things can go in. It results in a song that is fully functional, but can't really be the kind of exceptional thing that like sticks in your head and stays there forever, because it can't be constructed that tightly. It has to be loose enough that pieces can be mixed and matched around, which is its own kind of musical writing challenge. And I do think the game rises to that challenge and pulls it off. Absolutely. But if you came into this expecting things as memorable as what might like what's in, say, Epic the Musical or things like that, you're not really gonna get it. Like, I enjoyed all the songs well enough. I can't remember the tune from any of them, though. And so I say that I bring that up by way of criticism, and it's not really criticism. It's more just setting people's expectations, because it is billed as a musical, like right on the store page, and so that is a selling point. And I don't want people, especially in the wake of something like Epic the Musical blowing up, I don't want people to get to end up having a disappointing experience with the game because their expectations for what the musical aspect would be is just out of proportion from what it can actually pull off. And it does pull off. It pulls off what it's doing. I worry some people are going to expect more out of it than was ever going to be the case. So, yeah, that's about it. There is a DLC focusing on Orpheus, because of course he's in here. Voiced by Anthony Rapp, which I didn't catch during the game. I saw that during the credits. I was like, oh, dang it. And then, like, I looked up the trailer for the DLC, heard him singing again, and I'm like, yeah, that is him. How did I not recognize Anthony Rapp? Okay. Theater kid, can you tell? But it is really good. It's a really interesting thing, and it really gets you invested in these characters. They are really fully fleshed out. Nobody feels like a function. They all feel like people, and even the ones who, at least in my playthrough, didn't appear that often. Like, I think I only ultimately had 2 interactions with Eros. He still felt like a fully fleshed out character. This is really well put together. There's like a lot of heart and soul was put into this. Oh, one other thing I'll mention. It's not fully animated. The characters basically kind of fade in and fade out from pose to pose. If they're walking across the room, they'll have like this, and then they'll fade into that. And I think that was the right choice. I think for the art style they're going with, I think trying to get fluid animation, probably on the budget that they had, just it would have looked janky and bad. And I got used to it real quick. There's actually one random moment towards the back end where a character like moved, like the character Oracle like closed her laptop, and I actually watched the hand and go down the laptop close, and I was startled like seeing movement like that. So like I was fully immersed, especially because the art of the characters is so good, and it's actually a lot more varied than you'd think based off that description, because if you played enough of these games with, where characters aren't animated, they just move from static poses, you might find yourself thinking, oh, so every character's got like 2 or 3 poses that they just go between all the time. No, actually, you can tell there was a lot of unique art made for specific events that is like, this is not something they're going to reuse other than in just that scene. There's other stuff that does get recycled, but like it's stuff that works, your standard pose, your thoughtful pose, your singing pose. Yeah, sure, those get cycled around, but there's also plenty of other stuff like, yeah, no, you drew that just for this scene. And so I think they balanced that really well. It's the kind of thing where you have to recognize your limitations and find a way to make them work for you, and I think they did that. I think they did that with the game overall. I really liked this. I really enjoyed this. Stray Gods, have you played it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help me out. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. And now it's time to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Quite Bearish, Zubin Lutfula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casper, Dave Hall, Andre, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Iron, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. We have a new little guy here under my hair. That's Satyr. So yes, he can now join in the distraction chorus as I try to read names. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the family.